Satanic cults and their various offshoots exist throughout the world. We know what the satanic cult professes to believe. We know what their potential for violence might be if they choose to be true to their belief.
He does sex to us. He kills babies there.
Right.
We eat babies.
It is imperative that these cases be solved. They are vicious, revolting, and create fear in any community. Men are apprehensive for the safety of their wives, mothers, and daughters, women for their children and themselves. Perhaps one of the most despicable crimes in general, and in particular among Satanists, is that involving a child. In every state in the nation, there are reports and investigations of satanic crime and satanic ritual abuse. More than 2 million American children each year are reported missing, many of them too young to be runaways. In addition, more than 5,000 unidentifiable bodies of children are found annually in the United States.
Physical abuse was a part of keeping me silent. My fingers were burned on a stove. I was forced to watch pets killed and put in an oven, and I was told that if I talked, the same thing would happen to me. They would dismember bodies and then hang me upside down over a vat. I think it was acid, I'm not sure, but there were body parts, and they told me they would lower me into the acid if I ever talked about this. In one memory I had, in order to get the blood, they used me as the person to get the blood from. I was basically the lamb, the child of God, and they would put pins and needles in between my fingers, and I would be bled so that they could have communion. Another way to keep me silent was to use a gun. Pornography, child prostitution brings in big money, and I was not to talk about that either, and I was threatened to be killed if I talked, as well as burned. They used cigarettes and other forms of burning to keep me silent. And I had a pet bird that they killed in front of me, and then I was put in a cage. And so as a young child, I made the association that if I were in a cage, then I must be like the bird, and if they can kill the bird, they can easily kill me too. Remembering comes out in poetry as well, and my pet bird was killed in front of me, and I was also forced to participate in the murder of babies. And so I wrote a poem about not being able to talk about that. Birds and babies, go away. Mustn't tell, mustn't say. Mommy will get mad at me. Must pretend I do not see. Nothing happened, don't remember. Helter skelter, now dismember. Witches chant and babies burn. Mustn't talk, it will be my turn.
I was raised in Belgium and sold into a murderous pedophile network right around my 6th birthday. I was used in this network for 5 years and a half. Adult men that were part of this exclusive club were there for various reasons, but there was a lot of alcohol, a lot of drugs, and the children were the commodity, the highest, the most valued commodity, and were used for sex mostly. But there were a number of aristocrats that were part of this club who also liked killing children.
Friends of the family and strangers and my family used to rape me. Make me abort the babies I had.
It would be hard to imagine more misery and suffering than what Teresa says she's had to endure.
And us kids would be made to do things with the adults and the animals. And then a sacrifice would happen.
The sacrifice, were these animal sacrifices?
Animals and people.
On what scale do you think this was happening?
Enormous, far beyond what we've ever heard of here before.
Teresa's mother, Bridget.
You're talking about mass murder?
Yes, on a scale that this country's never heard of before. Like the old people's homes now, only these are...
For the first time, Teresa is learning what it's like to live with love instead of fear.
Pretty low.
In this quiet English village, with the help of her mother, she's slowly repairing her broken life. Teresa is now 15, but at the age of 2, she was left in the care of this woman, the grandma she called Nan. And that, she says, is when her torment started.
Who was the leader? Who was the boss of the gang, of the cult?
At home it was my nan.
Your Nan made you have sex with animals?
Yeah. Like goats and donkeys.
The story of Teresa is a story almost too horrible to recount. A case of child abuse that goes well beyond the kind of things we normally associate with the abuse of children. In 27 years of reporting, it has to be one of the most painful stories I have ever had to tell.
How many men or how many people would have sex with you?
What, at one time?
Yes.
About everyone who was there, which must have been about 20. You know, from 10 to 20 people. If it was a big ceremony, it used to be 30.
What would your grandma be doing when these men were forcing themselves on you?
Usually laughing. Or smiling. Or having sex with another man. Or other men.
A chronicle of debauchery and depravity so horrific it's hard to believe. You have to ask yourself, could Teresa be just making it up?
No. I know what's true and what's not. No, I know what I saw.
Children don't make up elaborate lies that this would have to be if it was a lie, which I know it is not. It isn't.
This couldn't be a terrible dream, a nightmare that you're reliving?
No. It's no dream. It's a nightmare, but it's not one you can wake up from. It's there all the time.
This really happened, you're quite sure of that?
Yeah.
The police don't think Teresa made up a story. Some of the cult members are to stand trial. 5 men have been charged with rape. As for Nan, the grandmother, she's 61 and lives in this council flat in South London. She's charged on 7 counts of aiding and abetting rape and 2 counts of performing abortions on Teresa. If you're finding this hard to believe, so did I at first. But then there are the medical reports, evidence of sustained sexual abuse. And there's this, a statement prepared for 60 Minutes by Teresa's psychiatrist. It says, "In my opinion, Teresa's account is not the product of a psychotic illness, nor the figment of a fertile imagination. I believe her to be telling the truth."
I know what's true and what's not.
We also took Teresa's story to this man, therapist Ray Wire. He reads a transcript of our interview and listens to her voice.
It's no dream.
Few people, if any, in Britain have counselled as many victims of satanic abuse or Satanists themselves as Ray Wire has. If there is an expert on satanic cults, it would have to be him.
Do you believe Teresa's story?
I believe Teresa's story. It's exactly the same story as I've heard from men who says they've done it.
You've dealt with other cases like hers?
Yes.
21 cases like hers, he says, in the past 2 years alone.
Themes like they were put in boxes with spiders and worms, where they were trapped in fear, where there was a high use of excrement and urine, where there was talk of human sacrifice.
Take just one of those rituals, putting children in boxes with spiders and worms. Now, listen to what Teresa told her mother.
And they had a coffin-like box that children were put in with spiders and snakes and the lid shut and left in there. I would have come out deranged. I could not have coped with that mentally at all.
You have evidence to back up stories like Teresa's, that this is really happening?
Well, we have that age of child, 6, 5 and 4, giving information that ties up with Teresa. How do those children know? How do those children able to describe rituals, to talk about ceremonies, to talk about sacrificing animals? How do those children know?
Nightmares, imagining it?
You can't imagine those things at 3 and 4 years old, and you also don't have the evidence of anal sex abuse and oral sex abuse and all that other abuse that clearly those children have experienced and endured.
During these ceremonies, was Satan, the devil, ever referred to?
He was called Lucifer.
What did they say about the devil, about Lucifer?
That killing the people made him happy.
Sacrifices to please the devil.
To talk about
According to Teresa, the worst rituals took place at a house somewhere in the country.
it was big, you know, expensive. From the front, it looked like a castle. You know, it had a long drive and big double wooden doors.
Do you think they were rich people then?
Very rich.
Now, where was this big house somewhere in the country? Teresa says she can't take the police there because the Satanists made sure she'd never know how to find it.
Teresa was always drugged, or on a couple of occasions she says she was knocked out, so that she never fully knew the route.
There was a tramp who was brought in once, you know, and he was killed. He was cut from his throat down to his stomach, and they ate him, or bits of him.
They killed a man at a ceremony?
Yeah.
In front of you?
Yeah, in front of all of us.
Did the tramp, did this man fight back?
No, I think he was, you know, drunk or something. He seemed really dopey. He was laughing a lot when he was brought in. And he started screaming when they began to cut. But after a while, you know, he died. I'd seen a few killings before then. Although I wasn't used to it, you know, that was the worst one. I really don't know what I thought. I suppose I thought, thank God it's not me.
Let me get this right now. Are you saying that you saw more than one person killed in that house?
Yeah. I've seen loads of babies killed there, just newborn babies, or aborted ones which were only small. You know, 4-year-olds. Any age, really.
Did they ever say they might kill you?
They threatened to kill my little girl, who, when I left, was still at the house.
A friend?
Huh?
What little girl?
My little girl, Alex. She's about 4 now.
You mean you had a child?
Yeah.
How old were you when you had that child?
11.
Motherhood at the age of 11.
Never talked about
But
it.
from what Teresa told her mother, it wasn't the only pregnancy.
We think about 7 or 8 times. It's hard to say. It was constantly happening from the time she was capable of being pregnant.
What happened to the pregnancies, to the babies?
They were aborted by my nan or by one of the doctors at the house.
There were doctors there at that house?
Yeah, there was 2, I think. Yeah, and a nurse.
What would happen to the fetuses, the unborn babies?
I used to be taken away most of the time, and one time the baby was taken out of me and then killed in front of me because it was still alive.
And then, what would happen?
Well, after they killed it, they would eat it. But we were also made to eat it.
You were made to eat your own fetus?
Yeah.
Who made you do this?
My nan.
You'd think the one person in the world you could leave a little girl with would be Grandma. Someone to give her love and protect her from harm. Yet, when Teresa was left to live with her grandmother, they might as well have handed her to the devil himself.
Grandmothers, I mean, the vision it conjures up for you, sweet old lady with grey hair, rosy cheeks, holding her arms out to love her grandchildren. And it was exactly the reverse.
But why was Teresa living with Nan in the first place and not with her mother?
Well, when my first marriage broke up, I took the children with me and couldn't cope. So I gave them to their father, who in turn moved to his mother's. And
to Nan's place?
Yeah. And when he left the Nan's place, he left the children there.
How do you feel now towards her grandma and the other people who did all those things to your daughter?
They disgust me. They are the worst form of life this earth has had the misfortune to create. Vile.
Did you ever try to run away? You must have been frightened.
A couple of times I did, but my uncle, he caught me and brought me back.
Going to the police? Did that occur to you?
No. No. I thought it was normal, even though I didn't like it. I mean, you don't like to eat greens, but somehow, I thought it was just her being called to be kind or something like that.
She said to me it was something that everybody did, she thought, like you don't like going to school or the dentist, you don't like going to the black masses.
It was never any different. I didn't have nothing to compare it to.
All part of life, Teresa thought. Even a miscarriage one day at school.
Yeah, I asked the teacher if I could go to the toilet, and she allowed me out. I went into the toilet and the baby was in my knickers. I thought it was dead, but it wasn't. It was still moving.
And yet no one at school knew?
No.
Saw anything?
No. Or if they did, they didn't say. No, she was treated for a high temperature, fever, nothing more.
What did she do with the baby?
She kept her for a while because she was frightened that they'd use the child as part of the rituals. So she turned the pencil case into a little coffin. Apparently she put roses in to make her smell sweet, put a letter with her, pictures of herself and her brother, a picture of me.
And then I put it down the chute because I didn't want my nan to get it.
As we said earlier, the police have already charged some members of the cult, and we know they're also investigating Teresa's accounts of those ritual killings. If there were as many as she told us, then the Satanists had a problem. How did they get rid of the bodies?
They had a tub, you know, pretty big, I don't know. A very big tub, and they used to put the bodies and bones in there. And it used to go like, you know, fizzy and that. And then there was nothing left. Well, there didn't seem to be, but when they cleared it out, there used to be a sludge at the bottom.
Teresa's story, her account, doesn't really surprise you.
It doesn't surprise me in the light of satanic abuse, no.
Do you get frustrated with people who just won't accept that these things do happen?
Yes, because I've worked with murderers in prisons for years. Not that long ago, a boy was found in a forest in southern England without a head. We have no doubts that men can do that. And yet when we start talking about men within Satanism who actually believe in evil and it's the right to express evil, we suddenly have a doubt.
As I was leaving Teresa's place, she handed me this note. It's addressed to the film crew. She says, "Thanks for bothering to help kids like me. I hope it helps." On the other side, there's a poem Teresa made up while she was staying at Nan's place. She calls it Nothing Left.
Nothing left. I would scream, but there is no voice left. I would cry, but there are no tears left. I'd fight, but there is no strength left.
Satanists celebrate a host of rituals and ceremonies during the course of each year. As some are held more important than others, a host of crimes are committed before, during, and after the ceremonies. On January 7th, the celebration of St. Weinbald is held. It is a blood ritual and animal or human sacrifice, including surgical dismemberment, and they're completed with males between the ages of 15 and 33 years of age. Satanic revels are held on January 17th. A sexual type of ritual, anal, oral, and vaginal activities are found with female victims ranging from 7 to 17 years of age. Candlemas, a high religious holiday, is held on February 2nd. At these sexual ceremonies, animal, oral, and vaginal rituals are completed with females from age 1 to 17. February 25th signals Beltane, a blood ceremony. Communions are held with blood filling the chalice. Animal dismemberment and sacrifices are common to this ceremony. The celebration of St. Icatat is held on March 1st. During the blood ceremony, human blood from devotees of any age and any sex is consumed for strength and as homage to demons. The spring equinox, March 20th, a celebration of orgies including anal, oral, vaginal, or bestiality sex between devotees of any age and any sex. Sacrifices are common. April 21st to the 26th is the time of preparation for the grand climax. Kidnappings of women, children, and animals are common. Thus, the victims are held until April 26th to May 1st, a damure ceremony for Corpus de Ball. Age group includes infants and females up to 25 years of age. April 30th, called May Eve or Walpurgis Night, signals a host of activities and historically is devoted to coven initiations. June 2nd brings about anti-Christian ceremonies using blessed wafers and blood mixtures for many blasphemous purposes. June 21st and 22nd signal the summer solstice, when orgies, anal, oral, and vaginal in nature, take place. Any age, any sex. Demon revels are held on July 1st. Sex with demons, human and animals, primarily large dogs, take place with devotees of any age or any sex. July 20th to the 27th signals the time for additional kidnappings and holdings of victims for the July 26th Grand Climax and August Eve festivities, which include sacrifices. Satanic revels occur on August 3rd, with its sexual orgies with females from 7 to 17 years of age. The coveted marriage to Satan takes place on September 7th, at which time human sacrifices of groomed devotees occur. The age group is female, 1 to 17 years of age. September 20th is the time of the Midnight Host, a blood ceremony when dismemberment of females 1 to 21 years of age takes place. Hands are planted as part of the ceremony. September 22nd, or Michaelmas, entails anal, oral, and vaginal orgies that also include bestiality with any age or sex devotees. October 29th to the 31st, Samhain, or Halloween celebration, is a high unholy day. Sex with demons is primary, as is infant sacrifice. On November 1st to the 4th, Satanic revels again occur. Anal, oral, and vaginal sexual activities take place with females from 7 to 17 years of age. And December 22nd, or the winter solstice, entails orgies with any age and any sex. And on December 24th, Demon Revels is a demure ceremony and a signaling of the high grand climax. Any age and any sex is included in these ceremonies. Eric Pryor is a former Satanic high priest turned Christian who now spends his time educating people about the dark side of Satanic cults.
When I was a practicing occultist, oftentimes I would come into this park and practice on various different holidays, lunar holidays and occultic holidays, and we'd actually have rituals in the park when we didn't have a space to do rituals indoor. So what I'd like to do is take you into the park and just kind of show you one of the places that you would start asking your questions and start looking to see, what the occultists are up to. There's two different communities that use this park. One is the pagan or occultic community, and the other community is, of course, the homosexual community. Interestingly enough, they go hand in hand. And so, well, see, here you go. Upon entering the park, you can see they've already got started. Okay. This is a pentacle. Interesting thing about this pentacle is it's an upright pentacle. This is not a satanic pentacle. Now, the reason why this pentacle would not be considered satanic is because it has one point up. Now, Satanists would reverse this star, or pentacle as it's called, and have 2 points up. Those represent the horns of Baphomet and or the horns of Satan. But now, right over here, I can see on a tree here, there's a inverted cross. Now, this is satanic. This is a very generic symbol. Let me see. It's actually fairly fresh too. This here, of course, is a bastardization of Christianity, and it's a very common symbol. Obviously, they probably had a party or a ritual here within the past night or two. Usually what they'll do is they'll mark, it's almost like a path. They'll mark a path to kind of show you where the action's at. The colors they'll use will be white, red, and black. Those are the dominant colors of the Satanic movement. And basically, well, okay, over here, see? Here you go. This, well, see, this is what I'm talking about. Okay, what you're looking at here is called Voodoo Vivi. This is kind of like a coat of arms, if you will, for the demonic. And the implications of this is definitely satanic. When I showed you earlier the one pointed up star as we first came in, and I told you that, you know, the implications of Satanism are 2 points up. As you can see, there are 2 points up here, and someone has made it very clear they were probably worshiping Set, because it says Set here, so it's pretty obvious. Now this here, if I'm not mistaken, looks like a money Vivi. So I wouldn't be surprised if they were here on the park doing a money ritual. And this is very typical. This is the kind of thing that you can expect to see not only on crime scenes, but in areas where occultists hang out. Like gang graffiti, occultists kind of communicate to each other through their graffiti. On the rise there up here is a very flat area, concrete area, that is used often. I even frequented it for ritual practice. Well, there you go. You can see from here 666 and an eye. Now that eye above 666 is an Egyptian eye, the eye of Anubis. So I can tell by looking at this eye that these people that were up here were into ceremonial magic. These aren't witches, these are definitely Satanists. Okay, here you go. Shem Hemfarash is a satanic invocation, and Halley is also part of a satanic invocation. There is a book out called The Greater Key of Solomon, and in The Greater Key of Solomon you will see on the seal of Solomon this word. All right, from what I can tell from the graffiti and everything that I've seen and what I see here on the concrete, it looks like they actually have the ritual here. Now there's an N here for north, and there's an S over here for south. Now, while these are not the true directions, obviously someone had a bad sense of direction, I'm assuming that this is where they actually had their ritual. One of the reasons why they would use this particular area to have a ritual is it is on concrete, and it's a nice open area. When we used to come up and have rituals, and we had a group, we would look for an open, flat space. This is an open, flat space. This would be an ideal place for them to have a ritual. Now, if I was a solo occult practitioner, I might do it in the bushes somewhere and have a little altar set up. So what you're doing is when you come onto a scene and you're investigating a scene, you look on the ground and you'll find clues as to what happened. Right here, okay, we have a rope here. This is a noose. And actually, if you look at it closely, I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but there's blood on this noose. Now, this could have been used either to bind someone up in some type of a ritual scourging, or it could have actually been used on an animal that was sacrificed. When sacrificing a cat or a dog, of course, animals move around a lot and they get unruly, so they would tie it up. But there is blood all over this particular noose. Now, these are the kind of things that you'd be looking for. What we have here is a medicine bottle of 2% xylocaine. For those of you with medical knowledge, you would know xylocaine, known as lidocaine, is a numbant. It's used to numb people, and for that matter, animals. And of course, if you're going to ritually sacrifice an animal or a human, for that matter, in a public place, you don't want them to be screaming in pain. So it's not uncommon for occultists to use something like this, and of course, here we have it. On this tree here, we have some more graffiti. It's in red, which is a classical satanic color. Now, what's interesting here is the number 9. 9 represents the 9 satanic statements. You can find this in a book by Anton Sanzer LaVey, which is called the Satanic Bible, and you will see that there are 9 satanic statements. This is the way occultists tell each other, hey, we're Satanists and we're partying.
The 9 Satanic Statements from the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey. Number 1, Satan represents indulgence instead of abstinence. Number 2, Satan represents vital existence instead of spiritual pipe dreams. Number 3, Satan represents undefiled wisdom instead of hypocritical self-deceit. Number 4, Satan represents kindness to those who deserve it instead of love wasted on ingrates. Number 5, Satan represents vengeance instead of turning the other cheek. Number 6, Satan represents responsibility to the responsible instead of concern for psychic vampires. Number 7, Satan represents man as just another animal, sometimes better, more often worse than those that walk on all fours, who, because of his divine spiritual and intellectual development, has become the most vicious animal of all. Number 8, Satan represents all of the so-called sins, as they all lead to physical, mental, or emotional gratification. And number 9, Satan has been the best friend the church has ever had, as he has kept it in business all these years.
This is the symbol for the Church of Satan, and this is kind of like their crest, their coat of arms, if you will. This would imply that these people either have affiliations with the Church of Satan or perceive themselves to have affiliations with the Church of Satan. Everything that we've seen here indicates Satanism.